Wading into War, Chapter 19. I didn't want to go home. I wouldn't sleep anyway. Sleep would come eventually, but not now. I ended up back at the post building. I went up to Gardner's floor and looked out for him at his usual desk. He wasn't there, and some of his knickknacks were missing also. "Over here!" I looked up and saw Gardner by the window. I went over, spreading my hands out in a question. "I decided to leverage my vow of silence and get myself a window desk," Gardner said. "You blackmailed your own boss?" "The word is leverage, Wade. Learn it. Might do you some good." "Whose desk was it?" "Terry's, but he's close to retirement anyway. Johnny Flynn and I were angling for this spot. I just had the clout to make it mine." "By blackmailing your boss," I joked. His typewriter was empty of paper. Beside him were 2 or 3 drafts of the story. "You done writing?" "Yeah." He rubbed his eyes. I sat in the chair next to him and plopped my hat on the next desk. I put my head in my hands. I hate knowing that guys like Dietrich are out there in our city doing things they're doing. It's going to make me question every murder in this town from now on. Who's to say it isn't just another cover-up? "You think you've got it bad. At least you didn't read what Blosenblatt discovered." He slipped a cigarette between his lips and put fire to it. He leaned back in his chair and put his feet on his desk. It was the posture he used when he was about to pontificate. I didn't want to hear it, but I owed it to him to listen. The phone on his desk rang. It's probably the copy boy. It's probably the copy room with the draft. He picked up the receiver and spoke. He listened. Then the cigarette fell from his lips. It flipped end over end in the air, landing partly on his leg and then on the floor. He stamped it out with the heel of his shoe. Looking at me with a blank expression, he held the phone out to me. "It's for you." With shaking hands, I picked up the receiver. "Hello?" "You need to make sure Mr. Gardner doesn't talk about what he learned," a woman's voice said. Lillian Saxton's voice. "How did you know he was—" "I can read people." His body language indicated he was about to tell a story. The only story worth telling is what happened tonight. I looked around the room. It was large, with a few offices on the perimeter. No one sat at the desks. That left only one other way she knew this. I gazed out at the window, peering into the night. There were a few buildings near us, but one in particular caught my attention. The building that met my gaze had 4 rooms still lit by lights at this time of night, but only one had a shadow at the window. "You're still in the Rice Hotel, but in a different room." I sighed. "Why'd you leave?" "I told you. I have a new assignment." "So," I said, looking at Gardner, "you really are a spy." "I am." "And that story about your brother?" "Real." She grew silent. "Did you or your reporter friend actually find out the truth about Samuel?" I nodded, then remembered she might not be able to see it. "Yeah." "Tell me." I did. When she started softly sobbing, I wanted to hold her, comfort her. I had counted the floors and pinpointed her room, but it was clear she didn't want me there. "Thank you," she said, sniffling a little. "At least I now know." "What are you going to do next?" "I can't tell you," she said, some frivolity returning to her voice. "It's top secret." She paused. "But we might meet again. You did good, Wade. You found what others couldn't. It's just too bad you can't use it. You never know. When we go to war, we might could use someone with your talents." I sighed. "Not you too. Everyone seems to think we'll eventually get into this war. What if we don't?" "Mr. Wade, I'm much more worried about that scenario than the one in which we do get into it. At least if we're in it, we can shape the world once we win." "You sound pretty confident about winning a war we're not even in yet." "I have to be, because the alternative is something too dire to think of." "Good night, Mr. Wade. Get some rest. You look horrible." She hung up. I gave the phone back to Gardner. "Where is he?" "Where is she?" he said. I pointed at the Rice Hotel. 17th floor. Gardner whistled softly. She's good. Yep, she is that. A door banged open and a copy boy ran to us. He slapped down the morning edition. We all read it. Splashed across the top was the lead headline, Local Police Foil Bank Robbery. Not without pride, Gardner pointed to his byline. First time on the front page. I clapped him on the back. Good job, Gordon. Good job. I scanned the rest of the page. There was a recap of the latest events in Europe. The Germans, it seemed, were on the verge of something, and the French were getting ready for it. Over in the Pacific, the Japanese were already in China. Heaven help us if they decided to team up. War, I thought, on both sides of us, and we're in the middle. In my mind's eye, I pictured a world map, putting all the warring countries in red, and the United States in blue. There was so much more red throughout the world, and so little blue. Maybe Lillian Saxton and Donnelly were right. Maybe the war was coming. Hell, a part of it already had dropped here in Houston. Did that mean we had already waded into war? A part of me thought so. Come on, Mr. Front Page Man, I said to Gardner. Let's get some breakfast. I got paid today. It's my treat. The end.